Reports indicate that upwards of 100 terrorists may have attacked the consulate and annex. We can't even bring one of those 100 to justice after a year. How is it that after nearly a year of investigation, and despite the full resources of the U.S. intelligence, defense, and law enforcement agencies, we are still unable to locate, apprehend, and bring to justice any of the suspected terrorists?
Well, it's about time. It turns out the administration tried to run from Benghazi, but can't hide. I think it's a little curious, the timing of this leak about the charges being filed against the Benghazi suspects. We have known who they are. Obviously, journalists have spoken to them. They've been out there in the open for days, for weeks, for months. I'd say better late than never. But it does, I mean, it reminds me of the critique of the administration, of the Clinton administration after the attack on the USS Cole, when we sent the FBI to investigate in Yemen. There was resistance by the authorities. We were then, pre-9/11, looking at the law enforcement paradigm and treating it like a crime instead of like war. I'm glad that we have the sealed indictments. But the question is, if we have the intelligence, we have CIA on the ground, we have operatives out there, why haven't we snatched them, interrogated them? And the answer is that this administration, from the beginning, decided to do everything that to undo everything the Bush administration had done. So we've had no interrogations, nowhere to put them, nowhere in Guantanamo. All you can do is an indictment, a trial in New York, or nothing.
How hard do you think it would be to make a case against some of these people on the ground, as we've talked about the difference between the law enforcement action and the terrorist, military attack kind of designation? How hard is it going to be to bring a case against these guys?
It is always hard to do. You don't have the forensic evidence. You don't have a CSI guy who puts up yellow tape on the scene and keeps everybody away until all the stuff is gathered, the ballistics and all that. Osama bin Laden had an indictment, I think it was in '98, and the Sudanese offered him to the U.S., and we said no. He ended up in Afghanistan because we didn't have enough evidence to actually pursue a case. When you do the law enforcement model, you're completely handicapped in trying to deal with terrorism, and that's why it's always been the wrong one.
I'm curious to know why you're quibbling with the use of the word evacuate.
Well, it's a technical term that
Is it? I think it's a pretty non-technical term. Ordered departure is a technical term.
To remove from a place of danger to a safe place.
So if you,
I think you're looking up in a dictionary the definition, and I'm talking about.
Yeah, but what would you call it if you're suddenly told that you have to leave and a plane is flown in and you're forced to get on the plane and leave?
It's called an ordered departure, Matt. I'm glad you asked.
I just think that the Yemeni government certainly sees it an evacuation.
Well,
so I don't understand
the reason I'm clarifying, and I do think this is an important question, is because we have not suspended our operations there. We don't want to leave that implication.
Well, let's see. Evacuation is not an evacuation; it's an ordered departure. I would have thought ordered departure is what happens at National Airport every couple of hours when a plane takes off on time. A coup in Egypt isn't a coup; it's a change of government. The war in Afghanistan isn't really a war; it's an overseas contingency operation. What happened in Benghazi was not really a terror attack; it was a spontaneous riot, as the Secretary of State at the time said. What difference does it make? This is the first administration in history ever to launch a lexicological war on the enemy. They've thrown the book at him, the dictionary. It really isn't enough.
This has been a Sunfish production.